But what is it like? You're married. Let's say you're married. I know people married 70 years. When you spend time with your betrothed, okay, you have made the vow. I'm not talking living together. I'm not talking boyfriend, girlfriend. That is so common today. I'm talking about jumping off the cliff, burning the boats, you name it, making the commitment, and you do it in front of God and everybody, and there's a signed document. But beyond that, you've got a connection humanly. And you spend years together, and then, as we all must, one of you will go. You hear these stories where one spouse will die, and the other one goes right away. And everyone's been watching Jimmy Carter, wondering about that. So let's talk about the impact of the death of a spouse. We're seeing it in our own family. Every family sees it. Dr. John Braccio joins us with our segment I like to call, What's Up, Doc? Doc Braccio, what's up, Doc?
Well, good morning to you, Mike. And this is a tough topic for the persons that are involved or, seeing what happens. It's the surviving the death of a beloved spouse. I mean, there are few things in life more devastating psychologically and leading to ongoing and even long-term trauma than the death of a beloved spouse. Over time, the two persons in many ways become one. And when persons marry for life, they're really thinking about all the years they hope to spend together, sharing loving experiences. They may also have dreams of having children and a wonderful family life. And there really is an intense feeling of happiness and an eagerness for the future. There certainly are no plans, no thoughts for the death of the loving spouse. And when this occurs, well, the totally shattering experience. I've certainly seen a lot of this in my work. And while caring friends and family members and professionals can be helpful, there's no clear road for the person to navigate emotionally. Just talk to someone within the family just within the last 2 weeks. Long talk about how this happened to her. And, and for sure, the emotional road will be one with great emotional pain and suffering. And additionally, there can be physical problems resulting from the constant emotional stress on the person's body. And when does lose a loving spouse, it's really critical that the surviving spouse not feel the need to immediately address all the concerns that may be coming to the head and coming to the mind and just causing a lot of anxiety. The exception, obviously, would be financial concerns that, must be addressed. The important thing is to recognize that grieving is a very, very personal experience, Mike. There's no one way to overcome it. No, there's no way to overcome it. Even though there is a need for family and friends to be supportive and helpful, it's a very, very lonely journey that only that person can experience. Important things to do when trying to survive the love, the death of the beloved spouse, would include the following. You do want to surround yourself with family and friends to the degree you're comfortable. It's critical there be human support, understanding. It's not really something you can totally go alone. Then, two, you want to seek out spiritual support to the level of where you are spiritually. If you believe in an eternal life, then you are aware God chose to have your spouse come first, that you will eventually be together again. Three, if you have a more secular view of life, well, then always remembering the person, the wonderful times you had together will help you go to the next stage of your life without your spouse. Four, taking care of yourself physically is very important. You can really do damage yourself physically due to your emotional distress. So you do have to eat appropriately, do exercise, do personal hygiene, and generally really care for yourself. Five, seek out online groups if you desire for grieving for death of a spouse or various community groups or groups with a religious affiliation. Six, seek out a professional therapist experienced in grieving the loss of a spouse to help give direction and support if you desire. Seven, don't make rash major life decisions. And this is very important, Mike. After the death of a spouse, you don't just quit a job, sell a house, move to another state. or really any major decisions that are best really done after a period of reflection, dealing with the intense grieving that will occur. And 8, do not allow others, this is important, do not allow others to determine what is the appropriate amount of time for grieving. This is a very personal experience that is totally different for every person. You don't want people coming in, well, it's about time to move on. You've been at this a long time. That's your choice. The one exception to this statement is when the person grieving the death of a spouse cannot move on and become a threat to themselves, basically, but physically and emotionally. So no way to make it easy, Mike. If you lose a spouse, particularly someone you've been with a long time, and like you say, you mentioned 70 years. My wife and I have been at it 48 years. I'm just saying that if you do, it doesn't have to be that long. It's a partner, somebody you're with, and if you lose that person, it can be very, very tough. And it's when you have to really sort things out and go at it slowly and recognize it's just a lonely route. It's one you'll get through. It's just going to be very, very difficult. And you don't lose the memories. You keep the memories. You enjoy the memories. You are nourished by them. You can do that the rest of your life. But it's definitely a major change, an overwhelmingly major change to the life that you're leading.
My father-in-law, I was mentioning him early on. 2 things. First of all, he used to go to my mother-in-law's grave every day. And we thought, yeah, it's whatever he needs to do, right? And
Right.
Knowing him, we thought this is the way it's going to be from now on. Then it was like every week. Now it's like maybe twice a year.
Okay.
It's only been a few years. And I think there's a guilt going on with that, even where you go like, you know what? I don't feel like going to the grave to visit. And I think he felt a little guilty about that. Do you see that happening?
Well, I do see that happening. I think what a person, and it's also part of the process. There can be guilt. I think part of it is it's kind of a letting go. You want to be close, even though when you're there, the person is gone, obviously, but you feel closer to them physically. It doesn't matter the form the body, is in at that time, because, not everybody, goes into the regular funeral home. They're different ways now in terms of how bodies are dealt with. But people want to feel close. And it's still something that really people do. People do go to the cemetery. And I think initially, probably he just felt closer. He wanted to be closer. It's not that he doesn't maybe feel closer now. He's just doing it in a different way. He has the memories. But initially, that seems like what he felt he wanted to do. I think some people can do things out of guilt. That would be the wrong way to do things, of course, because anything you're doing after a spouse dies, you want to be doing what's comfortable for you. Some, it's going to the cemetery, spending time. Some go quite a bit. Some still do that. I just talked to a person who actually goes to the cemetery for his spouse, and there's a relative of his that's been dead for quite a period of time that someone regularly leaves flowers and cleans the area, and he has no idea who it is, even though it would be most likely a distant relative because he didn't really know the person. So you really don't know. And grieving is something different, Mike, too. Some people going to the cemetery, others looking through, the records. Some people will keep a few clothes of a person's spouse. Some of the things that they can touch them and feel close. So it's a very personal kind of a thing. And I've had the opportunity, it's difficult sometimes, to talk to people and how they deal with grieving in many cases, actually. And everyone really does it different. And you never get over something like that. You really don't. Assuming there was love and there was caring, you don't really get over the fact that, the
life is different. You're alone.
No. And it's a different, even if you're eventually with someone else, there's still those memories of those times together and the dreams that initially came. You never lose that. When people marry, they really are thinking of it, certainly most persons, of a long time.
It's supposed to be a lifetime. It's supposed to be a lifetime. Doc, we're up on time.
Supposed to be, yeah.
We're going to have to get going. But I appreciate it. This is a touchy subject, and it's one that has to be talked about. Dr. John Braccio for you at drjohnb.com. And as always, very poignant. Well, we'll check in again next week. It'll be Christmas week. How about that, huh?
Sounds good. But people do move on, and it can be positive, but it's a very difficult period when you're doing it, my friend. Nice to talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, see you later. Bye. 1320 WILS. Mike Austin back in a minute.